Good afternoon. It's Thursday, October 10th, 2019, and it has been 3 years since I discontinued a 24-year, 25, 26 years. I haven't figured it out yet, all of it, but over 20-year history of benzodiazepines. And I'm very happy to say I am alive and well. Um, it has been quite a journey. And for those that have watched all along, thank you so much. For those that have helped me along, some special mentions are the benzo groups, benzo buddies, benzodiazepine information coalition, or now benzo information coalition, the Dr. Heather Ashton protocol, and Dr. Heather Ashton. Um, so many people along the way that supported me in so many ways: financial support, answering the phone, telling their story, um, educating me, people who've helped me with just so much. I didn't get here by myself, so I'm I'm very grateful and very humbled by this entire journey that I have been on. Um, for those that haven't been watching, I was given my very first benzo, a really brief bio here, my first benzo in 1985 when my third born child died of a congenital heart defect, and I was told I needed to take it for a couple days to be able to sleep and relax. And I did, and I took it as prescribed. And then I didn't take it again until 1990 when I was the sole provider for 3 children under the age of 6, uh, or actually under the age of 7 by that time. And it was very stressful. I was very financially challenged. I had a child that had some challenges, and so I had a panic attack, and I was prescribed Xanax. And I will kind of jump forward to say that if I now have been diagnosed with PTSD, complex PTSD, and I now believe that if if I would have had different treatment at the very onset of this, and someone would have recognized what has gone on with me and talked to me about trauma, this whole ordeal would have never happened. But that's not the way that it went. I was given the Xanax, and it helped very well. Um, Life unfolds how it unfolds, and a series of events happened, and I found myself depressed, which coincides with having PTSD. And when challenges in life would come along, I struggled, and because I didn't know how to manage those, and I would tell the doctor, and so they would write the prescription for the antidepressant. Um, and then the years just evolved. I started having pain issues. I had more depression. I had more anxiety. And in looking back over it, I really just feel that if I could go back to the very root, it was that first medication. If that would have been dealt with differently, a whole different story would have unfolded. But what happened was I ended up being on multiple prescriptions, off and on, tapered off, and not tapered properly as we know today to not do harm and not cause serotonin syndrome or things like that, to cause a discontinuation symptoms. Um, and in between 2010 and 2016, I was prescribed and took routinely uh, 19 different medications. Um, I was looking at these today a little bit, um, and it's just amazing. In 2010, I was on Effexor 37.5 milligrams, lorazepam, otherwise known as Ativan, 1 milligram, Ambien 10 milligrams. Let's see, I see a promethazine was thrown in there, and then a cyclobenzaprine, which is a muscle relaxer. Um, and then when we go to 2014, I was on the pain medicine. I was taking maybe a half of one a day in 2010. In 2014, where is this? I got up to taking oxycodone, 15 milligram tablets, one every 4 hours. Um, so that figures at, what was that? Close to 90 milligrams a day. Now, I didn't take that every day. Some days I take 60 milligrams. Some days I take 110 milligrams. Um, the Effexor in 2014 was 150 milligrams when I started tapering off it and finally discontinued it completely. I had got put up to 225 milligrams. Let's see, and oh, here they gave me some diazepam. I had I can't even speak it, metoclopramide, which is for my stomach was upset all the time. Go figure. Um, let's see, and then I was on a bunch of meds for allergies. I was on Zyrtec, 3 tablets a day. I had a sinus spray. I had an inhaler. Then they started giving me medications. I can't see where it is right now. They gave me medications because I was having diarrhea all the time. Then when I was coming off meds, I got added on mirtazapine and clonidine and Seroquel, 150 milligrams of Seroquel and 15 milligrams of mirtazapine and zero point 0.1 milligrams of clonidine. So I ended up coming off 150 milligrams of Seroquel, 225 milligrams of Effexor. This was all after coming off benzos. I had to discontinue those. So that's kind of the background of my story. When I came off all of these meds, 2016, when I came off the benzos, I ended up hospitalized 2 different times. I had so many symptoms. In fact, I'll go over a few of the symptoms as well. I've kept this list of symptoms. It's 3 pages long, and the way that I've done it is I wrote what I had before discontinuing any medications and before all of things got really crazy, and then I have a notation next to it for when I was in acute withdrawal, and then I've done 2 other dates and now 3 other dates. I did one May of 18 and November of 18, and so now I'm doing one almost a year later. So I'll just go over this real quick. These are all the symptoms that I have dealt with that I can remember to write down. Aches and pains, agitation and restlessness, akathisia, anxiety, possible terror, panic attacks, blurred vision, chest pain, depersonalization, depression, severe at times, possible suicidal ideation, derealization, diarrhea, dizziness, double vision, dry mouth, dysphoria, electric shock sensations in my head, elevation in blood pressure, fatigue and weakness, flu-like symptoms, GI problems, tinnitus, headache, hot and cold spells, increased sensitivity to touch, increased sensitivity to sounds, increased urinary frequency, indecision, insomnia, impaired concentration, impaired memory and concentration, weight loss and weight gain, mild aphasia, mood swings, muscular spasms and cramps, nightmares, numbness and tingling in feet and hands, obsessive compulsive behaviors, paranoia, perception that stationary objects are moving, perspiration, photophobia, postural hypotension, restless leg syndrome, sounds louder than usual, stiffness in neck, taste and smell disturbances, tremor, visual disturbances, psychosis, suicidal ideation, urge to shout, throw, and break things, rage and acting out, inner anger, air hunger, intrusive thoughts, low confidence, isolation, poor appetite, and hypervigilance, to name a few. um, so these symptoms have waxed and waned over the years, depending on what medication I was on, what I was off, what I was coming off of, how long I've been off of it. So the symptoms, I'll go back now and talk about the symptoms that I still have at 3 years off, which I will say, I am so grateful to be off all the meds, even with the symptoms, because I am my authentic self again. I am feeling more confidence coming back. My capabilities are coming back, and I have a lot more hope for the future than I did 3 years ago. That is for certain. Because I was, in 2014, when I was on those high doses, I was bedbound. I was suicidal. I was so depressed. And that's not my life today. Yes, it still has symptoms. Yes, it's still hard. Sometimes it's really hard. But I have adopted some behaviors and utilized skills and really try to focus on what is working well and what is making me happy and the improvements rather than lamenting and telling my brain every single day, oh, this hurts, or oh, that feels bad, or oh, that doesn't work, or because I did that for years. For years when I was laying in bed, all I did was I moaned and groaned and I complained and I told everybody every symptom every day that I felt. It just, if I felt it, it came out of my mouth. and and I have learned since then that by doing that, I'm telling my brain those things. I'm telling my brain, oh, I hurt. Oh, my back hurts. Oh, I can't see. Oh, this. And the fact is that those things are there, but by telling myself, gosh, I'm feeling so much better. Gosh, I feel pretty good today. I'm really grateful for the blue sky. And I'm grateful that I had 5 hours sleep. No, I'd rather have 9 hours sleep. That's my ideal. I like 9 hours sleep. That's when I do best. But I'm grateful for 4 or 5 hours sleep. I'm grateful for not waking up in a panic. I'm grateful to be able to be out in nature. I'm grateful to be able to socialize. Pardon me. And that, from everything I've studied, everything I've learned over the few years that I've been having to try to learn about all of this, we can program our brains by what we tell it. And so you don't hear me complaining or talking about my symptoms very much anymore on the various pages that I still visit. It doesn't mean that they aren't there. It doesn't mean that they don't cause challenges in my life. I still have a very quiet, small life most of the time, although I've had quite a summer and it was fabulous. But there is a lot of time I'm still very, very quiet, just sitting in the trailer, watching movies or being out in the garden or, trying to see if I can try to research something, which I still have troubles with concentration. So it's back and forth playing games. But, it's just so much better. And I'm just so grateful. I couldn't sit here and keep a thought or not be crying or not be raging or not be freaking out. Um, even 2 years ago, I was still really, really, really not well. So anyway, back to the symptoms. So I still have aches and pains. I have various skeletal issues that have been seen on different imaging that cause chronic pain. I'm doing really great treatment. I'm having acupressure. I'm having the adjuster method from my primary care physician. She also does manipulations of the spine. Um, and so that, coupled with the fact that I use cannabis, has made my aches and pains very tolerable. I am so much more active and physically capable than I was when I was on all these high doses of medications. And I'm really grateful for that. Uh, I, um, I just have rare restlessness and agitation, just very rare. Uh, so akathisia, for me, I'd have some inner akathisia, just feeling like I just want to crawl out of my skin and kind of crawly underneath and like things were moving under my skin. As well as I rocked. Rocking was one of my things. I'd rock, and I still do it once in a while, but it's much improved. And I still get anxiety with driving. I can't drive. Um, I even struggle being in a car in a big town, or if somebody is driving a little fast or anything is happening, it's very hard for me. My heart rate goes up and I get anxious. That's about the only time I really feel anxious, except I still have some anxiety about conversations that are difficult, just because it's hard. Um, Blurred vision. So I get to go to an eye doctor next week, finally, an ophthalmologist, because my vision is really challenged. I have floaties that are kind of like sparkles. I call them sparklies. Um, I My perception is not so good because I'll be walking, and if there is like any little change in the depth, or even if there's a piece of like concrete and a piece of wood, concrete and a piece of wood, it makes me kind of feel like I'm on a boat. It's very strange. Some days my vision is not so impaired, and some days it's super blurry. My eyes get very dry, so I have some issues with my eyes. I don't. I still have a little bit of chest pain. I actually have an appointment with a cardiologist. I've been struggling with having heart rate down in the 40s and 50s. When it's in the 50s, it's not too bad. When it drops in the 40s, it's very uncomfortable. Um, and so I've had EKG. I had a stress test a year and a half ago, or yeah, a year and a half ago. I also had an angiogram a year and a half ago. Uh, Recently, I wore a Holter monitor, and even though there's nothing that's jumping out, they're sending me to a cardiologist because I do have some chest pain. I do have shortness of breath. I do have air hunger, and I do have palpitations. And then my heart rate will drop down as low as the lowest I've got it registered is at 38. And that doesn't feel very good. Um, Depersonalization, only if I'm in a big crowd, I might kind of depersonalization and derealization. I just kind of check out. I kind of feel like it's not sure if I'm there or not. It's a very strange feeling. Um, Depression and suicidal ideation. So I have not had any depression for probably a year, maybe 9 months to a year. I don't have depression. Now I am still grieving. It's only not quite um, 5 months since my oldest child died. And so I have still been experiencing grief, but that's not depression. That's different. Um, Suicidal ideation. I have not had a suicidal thought in over a year, and is that is a huge weight lifted off when you don't have to be afraid of your own self. It's really a huge weight to have lifted off you, that you don't have to worry about hurting yourself and make all kinds of really challenging things about how to keep yourself alive. So, um, Let's see. I've talked about vision. I still have a little bit of dry mouth. I still have fatigue and weakness. I don't have a lot of energy. In fact, I max out about 4 hours a day of being actually active, meaning going to appointments or working in the garden or cooking or things. I'm about 4 hours, and it's best if it's broken up. But if it's all together, I can do it. If I get into 5 and 6 hours, man, I'm just like not good for a day or two. I still have a little bit of GI problems, but they're so much rarer. Um, Still have a hard time regulating my temperatures. I get sweats and then I get really cold. Um, Increased sensitivity to touch, increased sensitivity to sound. Oh my gosh, that's still there. Photophobia, which I'm getting into the sun now, and it's kind of hard, but it's not anything what it used to be. Still struggle with some indecision. Insomnia was severe. I went years with only getting 1 to 2 hours a night of broken sleep. Um, it was really severe, and many nights with no sleep for years. And now I sleep on average 6 nights a week, 4 to 6 hours, and occasionally seven, once in a while 8. Um, but then I usually have one day a week still that I'm very restless all night and get very little sleep. So that is a great improvement. And I don't have panic anymore about not sleeping. If I don't sleep, I'm just like, all right, I'm going to be tired today. Today. Oh, well. Um, I still have impaired concentration and memory issues. I have gained weight. I'm working on it. I've also been grief eating, and so that's has added some. Um, I still get muscular spasms and cramps. My muscles feel very tight. Just a moment. I still have numbness and tingling in my feet and hands. Very rarely I'll get a little bit of paranoia, but in today's society, who wouldn't? I'm going to have to move this. Oh. All right, I think that's all I can do. All right, that's a little better. Sorry. This is going on a little long. Sorry about that, but it's a 3-year thing, and it's kind of a big deal. I have things I want to talk about. So maybe you'll watch it all, maybe you won't. So where was I? Impaired concentration and memory and weight gain. Mood swings are only associated with grief, not really with anything else anymore. Still get, like I said, the tense muscles. Yeah, photophobia, we just saw that. Restless legs is so much better, but it still comes around. Stiffness in neck still is pretty common in where my neck is always tense and stiff. So I told you about PTSD, and I'm getting that treated. I'm having wonderful treatment. I have an absolutely fabulous therapist that I started seeing a year ago, and we've been doing EMDR, and we've been doing brain spotting, and he's taught me a lot about self-talk and changing the self-talk and how that rewires our brain, which I'm also getting that kind of education from my acupuncturist. So I'm really working on the PTSD, and the symptoms from that are much better. I still have a poor appetite, and I do still experience hypervigilance at times. I still startle very easily. Confidence is improving. I don't isolate as much, but I still can isolate at times. So anyway, that's about symptoms. You know, what helped me, the things that helped me get through this. So I've shared this in other videos. I've ate well. I eat organic. I cook mostly at home, although this last summer I ate out a lot just because of grief and traveling. But normally I eat at home and I cook from scratch, and I don't eat grains. I don't eat very much dairy, and low to no sugar. I also, even through the very worst of it, partially by design, that life made it so that I was, either homeless or living somewhere that I had to get outside for something. But I got fresh air and being outdoors nearly every day. Um, I mean, very rarely. And regardless of the weather, I would get outside and get some fresh air. Some days it would only be to be out on the porch and sit on a chair outside. Sometimes it would be go for a walk down to the mailbox. Sometimes it would be play with Shasta. Um, but fresh air and a mild exercise, even in the worst of times, even though there's parts of your brain that are going to tell you you can, over time, many people, not everybody, some people have too severe of other symptoms that they can't do that, and their physical won't let them. But when it's a mental block that's telling you, oh, I can't go outside, the agoraphobia and all of that, you can tell yourself you have to go outside. That's how that's the only way you're gonna stay alive. You have to go outside. See, and you change that thought pattern, because your brain is trying to tell you, oh, don't go outside. Oh, it's bad. But you can tell your brain, I'm safe to go outside. I'm okay to go out on my front porch. So, and those are the things that I did. Those are the things that I did. I'm not just, spewing about things that I've read. I've done these things. So, uh, and you can, it's all documented on my pages, because I used to show all my walks and the things that I would do. Working on mindfulness, thinking about things before I speak. That's been that's been a big journey. Um, that's been a really big journey, and I've gotten much better at it. I've been learning filters again, and when I was in the throes of withdrawals, I did not have that. So I'm really grateful that I have a little more self-control of what I say and my behaviors. When we go through withdrawals, I know for myself, I have behaviors I feel so bad about. I'm guilty of the things that I did, and I'm aware of that. And I know what they are, and I can't change them. Um, I'm not ashamed because I was sick. It would be like somebody who had intestinal flu and vomited all over somebody. They couldn't help it. And I couldn't help some of the things that I did, but I do feel bad about them. Um, and that's been where some humility has come in. And so um, being mindful of my actions, and my surroundings, learning boundaries, um, meditating. Meditating was how I got sleep. I would do YouTube videos, or listen to various tapes with mindfulness, and it was hard. It was hard. My brain said, oh, you can't do this. Your brain's going all over the place and jumping, 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 and ruminating, 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 and all those intrusive thoughts coming in. But I kept doing it anyway. I'd put those earbuds on, and I would lay down, and I would go to bed at the same time. I developed a sleep routine, and I would go to bed at the same time. I would get up at the same time, regardless whether I slept or not. I didn't have my computer in bed. Now, there were lots of times I did have my computer in bed, and I would lay in bed because I felt so bad physically. Um, but when I could, I would try to do these things, and I always would use these probably about 6 months out, is no, probably about 3 months after I got off is when I really started using the meditation tapes. And it was hard. It took months and months, and it was slow process, just like all of this is. All of the healing of this, if you are affected, if you are one of the many hundreds of thousands worldwide that are affected by being by protracted withdrawals or withdrawal syndrome, benzo withdrawal syndrome, it takes a long time to learn and calm your brain down. But now meditating is just a way of life, and it really helps me stay centered and calm and focused. So I really, really encourage that. Another thing was I built community. My first community really was the benzo groups. But as I continued to heal and I reached out in my own local community and in other venues that I'm interested in, I found people that I related to and that understood and that accepted me right where I was, which is a very beautiful thing. That helps healing. Having love and acceptance helps healing. Um, and then self-love, um, which is a constant learning process for me. But I am much better at that, and that has helped me heal. I became my own cheerleader and told myself I was worth it, and that my life was worth living, even where I was, how I was, it was still worth living. And I did that day after day after day after day. That I would just tell myself, I know what your brain is telling me, but I don't want to die because I think that I'm going to get better. And that's why I've made videos all along. It's because I believed I would get better, and I am. As I also mentioned before, I have used cannabis. I started using it when I was coming off the other meds. It helped tremendously with pain. It really helped me get off the opiates. Um, but it also has helped with the benzo withdrawal syndrome symptoms. I It doesn't eliminate everything. It doesn't make it all better, but it made things more tolerable, especially the physical pain part for me. Um, so, and then also the last, a good therapist. If you're struggling with this, having a quality therapist that you can talk to, and they're hard to find. It took me going through about 4 therapists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 therapists. The last 2 have been quality therapists. After I had the 6th therapist, and that was at the pain clinic, I knew what I needed and what I wanted and what was working for me, and then I was able to find the therapist that I work with now. Because of my PTSD, we've also been doing EMDR and brain spotting, and I feel like I am making progress with that. I am going to put a couple links in the bottom about cannabis as a neuroprotectant and for boosting GABA. Just some information about how cannabis can help our brains. Um, what hurt or made it worse? This is my opinion. Um, Being gaslighted, made to feel like the things that I was calling as truth, people were saying that it wasn't, or that it was because of me. Um, People rejecting and abandoning me. Um, Being made homeless. Feeling very, very alone. Not having any support from the medical community and them treating me like an addict when I have never abused my medications. Those all caused much more torture in my brain than just the medications would ever do. Um, my brain will heal from the medications. These other things that pained me, I have to process them. I have to work them out in my own head, and I've had to find acceptance about them, and try to let the past be in the past, and just be grateful that I am where I am and how I am today. Um, but those did make it all a lot worse. And I think if someone has a loving environment where they have support and they have someone with them, and they have someone to help act as an intermediary with treatment facilities and the medical arena, I think that that really helps someone not uh, bottom out quite as easily. Although there are people that have that, and they have ended their life in suicide. And there's no easy answers. We're all different. Each of us has a different past. I told you the medicines I was on. We've all been on different medications. We've all had different stressors in our life. So there is no one size fits all. Um, so the last couple things is um, what today looks like. Like I said earlier, I really try to focus on what's good and what I'm grateful for and what I'm hopeful for, rather than having my focus and my verbalization be about symptoms. Um, the only time I really talk about symptoms is when I go to the doctor. Um, Otherwise, unless people are asking, I will talk about them, but I just try to focus on what feels good. And when something comes in that isn't feeling good, then I have a little conversation with myself about that, and I tell myself that I'm going to be okay. I've made it through the rough spots. I made it through the worst. It's going to be all right. Um, you know, there's some symptoms I didn't have that other people had. I didn't have huge sensitivities to food other than the ones that I'm actually allergic to. Um, I didn't have horrid akathisia. It was bad enough. My internal akathisia, yeah, I'm so glad that's over. But I will tell you, it was real hell. It was real. I do not think there is any worse hell. And especially being so alone. It was really traumatic. And yet, here I am, sitting in the sun, even though it's killing me, um, and watching the chickens and the llamas, and I have I have lots of friends, and some social areas still. It's hard. It's hard. You see me go to these social things. It's hard, but I'm doing it because it's the life that I want. I want to live, and I want to live as fully as I possibly can, even within my limitations. So, um, that's about it. Today is also World Mental Health Awareness Day, and I think it's appropriate that today is the day I am acknowledging that it wasn't what was wrong with me, but it was what happened to me, starting with trauma early in life, and then um, being really let down by the medical system. Um, they really did me a disservice, and I, I do have grief for my life, um, because I lost 25 years that I wasn't really myself, and and that I was um, treated differently and viewed differently. But I am fully me today, and I do have hope for the future. I am 57 years old, and Colonel Sanders, he was a millionaire when he was 85. He didn't even figure out his recipe and everything. Till he was 65, he went around selling chickens. So I have hope. There's a lot of people that find a lot of valuable ways to live their life later in life, and that is my goal. And I hope you continue to watch as the journey continues, and I hope that what I share helps you. I really hope it helps you. That's why I share, that to give hope, encouragement, um, a different perspective perhaps, um, because I care. I care about what you're going through. I know how bad it hurts. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you. I know it was a long one. Um, But it is a 3-year celebration for me, and I had a lot to say. Anyway, thank you so much. Peace.